This video is intended to give you guys a chance to use a little bit of programming with your physics. Hopefully this will be helpful rather than a hindrance, but we'll see how it goes. So first of all, I want to point out that we're going to be using Mozilla Firefox as the programming base. It has everything we need. At one point we're going to need to get an add-on. I'll show you how to get that. But for now, let's just talk about basics. So you get a recent version of Firefox, and you go to a new tab, and what I'd like you to do is press Ctrl-Shift-K. This will open something called a web console. Now, the web console is essentially a very, very powerful calculator that you can use. I want to take you through the very basics to begin with. In fact, since all we're going to be using is the calculator, we can expand this. So, you can create variables. So, for example, you could type A equals 1, B equals 2, and if you wanted to calculate A plus B, and you'll see the answer up there. It's if you want to calculate A times B, A divided by B, so on. So this is very, very basic, but also very, very useful. Let me show you something that doesn't work. So let's put another variable in here to make it interesting. C equals 3. Let's say that I want to square C. Based on your experience with spreadsheets and some other computer-type things, you might expect that if you want to square C, you would put C and a caret facing upward, and then like that. This is not going to work. That upward-facing caret doesn't mean what you think it means. We can get to it eventually, but for now, it does not mean to exponentiate or square. What you have to do is actually use various math functions, and these include things like sine, cosine, tangent, square root, and so on. So let's say I want to raise 3 to the power of 2, I have to use the function math.pow. And so I would write c, that's the variable I want to exponentiate, and then to whatever power. So that gives you the result. If I want to raise it to the 3rd power, I put a 3 in there, 4th power, you get the idea. That's how it works. The other thing, let's say you want to take it to the power of 1/2, let's do that, 0.5. Now, 3 to the half power isn't going to be particularly pretty, but that should give you the same exact result as, for example, math square root c. And as you see, it does. Now, I want you to understand one thing here. This is using what's called floating point arithmetic, and that means sometimes you'll get certain types of rounding errors, and of course when you're doing physics you should be rounding things as you go, but if you want to let the program do it, you could, for example, do this whole thing, and there's an interesting function. You put a dot to fixed. Now, all of this is case sensitive, so if I want to keep 3 decimal places past, or 3 digits past the decimal point, I would do that, and you see the result. Now, the quotations around that means that it may be treated like a string, that is, letters, things like that. So sometimes you have to be a little bit careful with that, but this can clean up some things so that they're easier to look at. So anyhow, that's the basics. Let me just give you one other thing. You can, of course, assign anything to a variable. So, for example, you can write d equals a plus b plus c. And if you just want to see what the result of d was, it will show up there. So anyhow, this is called the JavaScript Console, or the web console, and we will be using it in a number of future screencasts to show results or flag errors.